Hollywood's golden glow has always dazzled the world, painting a picture of glamour, success, and limitless opportunity. But behind that glittering curtain lies a truth the industry never wanted you to see. For decades, some of Hollywood's brightest black stars lived double lives, forced to hide their sexuality just to survive in an industry that was unforgiving to anyone who didn't conform. These men and women, icons in their own right, smiled for the cameras, delivered unforgettable performances, and built careers that shaped the culture. But behind the scenes, they carried burdens that the world never saw. They lived with secrets, painful, heavy truths about their identities, knowing that revealing them could cost them everything they had worked for: their art, their careers, and their reputations. These aren't just stories of fame and glory. They are stories of resilience, survival, and silence. The price of their success was often silence, a silence that spoke volumes about the price of living authentically in a world that refused to embrace them. Before you look away, hit subscribe to Secrets of Black Star, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see Hollywood forever. Alvin Ailey, the genius who hid his truth for survival. Born in 1931 in Rogers, Texas, Alvin Ailey grew up in the harsh realities of the segregated South. Despite these early challenges, he became a trailblazer in the world of dance, founding the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958, a company that would go on to redefine modern dance. His 1960-piece Revelations remains one of the most performed dance works in history, deeply rooted in his Black heritage and spirituality. But Alvin Ailey's journey was not just one of artistic triumph, it was also one of personal sacrifice. As a gay Black man in a time when both his race and sexuality were condemned, Ailey chose silence, understanding that revealing his truth could cost him his art, his reputation, and his career. He poured his unspoken emotions into his choreography, creating works that were both a confession and a resistance. In his later years, Ailey faced struggles with mental health and was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS. In his final days, he chose to hide the truth of his death to protect his mother from public judgment. How much does an artist have to sacrifice to survive in an unforgiving world? Alvin Ailey's story reminds us of the quiet strength it takes to endure while keeping one's truth hidden. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Bayard Rustin, the silent architect of change. Bayard Rustin was a brilliant strategist and a key architect of the civil rights movement, yet his life was marked by a painful silence. Born in 1912, Rustin's efforts helped shape some of the most defining moments in American history, including his pivotal role in organizing the 1963 March on Washington. He was the quiet genius behind the movement's nonviolent tactics and the mastermind behind the largest protest of its time. Yet he had to conceal his sexuality to protect the integrity of the cause. In an era when being both Black and gay could derail a career, Rustin's truth was forced into the shadows. He lived authentically in private circles, but knew that his public identity could destroy his reputation and the movement he served. His sexuality, once exposed, led to his marginalization, but his impact on the civil rights movement remained immeasurable. What does it say about a society when the most influential voices are hidden in the shadows? Bayard Rustin's story challenges us to think about the personal cost of fighting for a cause larger than oneself. Should his sexuality have been a hindrance to his public recognition, or was his impact strong enough to transcend it? Share your thoughts below. Juano Hernandez, A Quiet Rebellion. Behind the camera. Juano Hernandez was a trailblazer in Hollywood, one of the first Afro-Latino actors to break through racial barriers in American cinema. Born in 1896 in Puerto Rico, he defied the odds, rising to prominence with his unforgettable performance in Intruder in the Dust, 1949. Hernandez brought dignity and humanity to the roles he portrayed, showing a depth that went far beyond the stereotypes of the time. But behind his remarkable success, Hernandez carried a hidden truth. He was gay in an industry where this revelation could destroy his career. In an era when openly living as a black or gay man in Hollywood was almost impossible, Hernandez chose to keep his personal life private. His sexuality was a part of his identity he could never share without risking everything he had worked for. Does an actor's brilliance become less impactful when their true self is hidden? Hernandez's story is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful performances are those that speak from silence. How do we honor artists like him, who gave so much yet couldn't live fully? Let us know your thoughts below. Jeffrey Holder, Art, Identity, and the Price of Silence. Jeffrey Holder was more than an entertainer. He was a cultural force. Born in Trinidad in 1930, Holder made a name for himself as a dancer, choreographer, and actor, with unforgettable roles in The Wiz and Live and Let Die. With his towering presence and magnetic charisma, Holder captivated audiences, yet his brilliance extended far beyond his on-screen persona. Behind the scenes, however, Holder kept a deeply personal part of himself hidden. Holder was a gay man in a time when being open about one's sexuality could lead to exile from the entertainment industry. Despite his success and widespread admiration, he chose to keep his private life out of the public eye, protecting his career and artistic legacy. His flamboyant costumes and expressive choreography may have hinted at his true identity, but Holder never publicly acknowledged his sexuality. What does it mean for an artist to create beauty while hiding their truth? Holder's legacy challenges us to recognize the complexity of artists who thrived in silence. Did his art speak louder than the secrets he kept? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tommy Lane, a silent strength behind the screen. Tommy Lane was the embodiment of tough guy charisma in 1970s and 80s cinema, known for roles in films like Live and Let Die, 1973, and Shaft, 1971. His rugged performances captivated audiences, portraying villains with sharp precision and a kind of masculine power that Hollywood adored. But beneath that on-screen image of strength, Lane harbored a truth he could never fully embrace in the public eye. He was a gay man in a world that demanded conformity. In an era where Hollywood demanded its stars fit neatly into societal molds, Lane knew his sexuality could be his undoing. His career was defined by restraint, not just in the roles he played, but in the life he led off screen. He kept his personal identity hidden, fearing that being open about his sexuality would jeopardize the career he worked so hard to build. How does one navigate fame when the very truth that defines you could destroy everything you've built? Tommy Lane's life is a reminder of the cost of silence in a world that punishes authenticity. Should he have lived openly? Or was his choice to stay silent the only way to survive? Share your thoughts below. Jimmy Daniels, the hidden star of Harlem. Jimmy Daniels was one of the shining stars of Harlem's golden age, a sophisticated cabaret singer whose performances were a blend of elegance and charm. His powerful baritone voice and smooth stage presence made him a favorite in the Cotton Club and other elite venues. Yet behind the scenes, Daniels led a life of quiet struggle, hiding a part of himself that could have destroyed his career. He was gay in a time when such an identity could ruin everything. Born in the early 1900s, Daniels' artistry defined the sophistication of the Harlem Renaissance. He was known for his poise and grace, both on stage and off. But like many in his circle, Daniels had to conceal his true self to survive in an era of intense societal and professional pressure. His nightclub was a sanctuary for artists, but Daniels himself kept his love life private. knowing that exposure could cost him his livelihood. What does it cost an artist to hide their truth to survive in a world that judges them? Jimmy Daniels' story is a testament to the resilience of those who thrived in secrecy, but still gave the world beautiful art. Should he have been allowed to live openly, or was his silence the only option? Let us know in the comments below. Moses Gunn. Strength and silence in Hollywood's golden age. Moses Gunn was one of Hollywood's most respected actors, known for his commanding presence in films like Shaft, 1971, and Ragtime, 1981. His deep voice and ability to portray strong, authoritative characters made him a staple in American cinema, but behind his professional success lay a painful silence. Gunn was a gay black man in an era when openly embracing both his race and sexuality could ruin a career, so he chose discretion. In the 1960s and 70s, Hollywood's view of masculinity left no room for vulnerability or difference. Gunn was forced to maintain a public image of stoic strength, never revealing his true self for fear of losing everything. Despite his critical acclaim and growing recognition, he lived much of his life privately, with his true identity concealed from the public eye. How does a man of strength carry his silence? Moses Gunn's story challenges us to reflect on the cost of living authentically in a world that demands conformity. Should he have been free to live openly, or was silence his only means of survival? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Luther Vandross, the silent soul of R&B. Luther Vandross was more than just a legendary voice in R&B. He was the soundtrack of love, longing, and vulnerability. From his early background as a background vocalist to his rise as a solo superstar in the 80s, Vandross's smooth, velvety voice captivated millions. Yet behind his perfect performances and endless hits, he carried a secret that many never knew. Luther Vandross was gay, a truth he kept hidden throughout his entire career. In an industry that celebrated his voice but demanded conformity, coming out was never an option. Vandross feared that revealing his sexuality could cost him everything: his fans, his career, and his reputation. So, he channeled his inner feelings of love, loss, and heartbreak into his music, creating some of the most soulful songs ever recorded. Did Luther Vandross's decision to remain silent about his sexuality compromise his legacy, or was it simply a reflection of the time he lived in? His artistry was undeniably powerful, but his silence was also a part of his story. Do you think it's fair to put that kind of burden on artists? Share your thoughts below. Raymond St. Jacques, the quiet trailblazer. Raymond St. Jacques was a pioneering actor who broke barriers for black performers in Hollywood. Rising to fame in the 1960s, he became one of the first black actors to have a recurring role in primetime TV with Rawhide alongside Clint Eastwood. Known for his strong presence and intellectual gravitas, St. Jacques stood out in an era where black actors were often relegated to stereotypical roles. But behind his trailblazing career was a truth he could never openly acknowledge. Raymond St. Jacques was gay. In the 1960s and 70s, being both black and gay in Hollywood meant facing double the discrimination. To preserve his career, St. Jacques kept his sexuality a secret, fearing that exposure would overshadow his artistic achievements. Instead of living openly, he let his work speak for him, embodying characters of strength and dignity, often portraying men in positions of power or wisdom. How does an artist's identity affect the roles they can play? Raymond St. Jacques was a hero on screen, but a man hiding his truth off-screen. Does this silence diminish his legacy, or does it show the price many had to pay for success? Share your thoughts below. Howard Rollins, the price of silence in Hollywood. Howard Rollins was a force in Hollywood, a gifted actor whose talent captured the hearts of millions. Known for his powerful roles in Ragtime, 1981, and the TV series In the Heat of the Night, Rollins became one of the most prominent black actors of his generation. But behind his public success, Rollins carried a silent burden. He was a gay man navigating an industry that made it nearly impossible to live authentically. In an era when being openly gay could lead to career-ending consequences, Rollins chose to keep his personal life private. Instead of revealing his sexuality, he poured his emotions into his roles, portraying men of strength and resilience. But as the pressures of fame and personal struggles mounted, Rollins turned to alcohol and battled addiction, which affected his career and personal life. Does the weight of hiding your truth affect an artist's ability to thrive? Howard Rollins' story raises questions about the cost of silence in an unforgiving industry. Could he have been more successful if he had been allowed to live openly? Share your thoughts below.